Hello traders, let's take a perspective on central bank intervention in Forex market and their impact on currency movements. Central bank intervention is another fundamental element at the center of currency fluctuations. This video seeks to enlighten you on central bank intervention, the purpose why central bank engage in the interventions, the methodologies they utilize, and the impact of the interventions in Forex market. By definition, foreign exchange intervention is the process where a central bank buys or sells foreign currency so as to stabilize the exchange rate. This move is often accompanied by a subsequent adjustment to the money supply to offset any undesirable effect in the local economy. If you are a forex trader or when trading the forex market, you have to bear in mind that when central banks intervene in the forex market, moves are usually extremely volatile. Therefore, it is important to set an appropriate risk to reward ratio and also, or more critically, to use prudent risk management. By practice, central banks intervene in forex market when the current trend is in the opposite direction to where the central banks desire the exchange rate to be. It follows that trending around central bank intervention is more like trending market reversals. In addition, market participants tend to expect central bank interventions, meaning that it is not uncommon to see movements against a long-term trend in the moment leading up to central bank intervention. However, one might ask, why do central bank or central banks intervene in the foreign exchange market? Typically, there are a number of reasons why the central banks intervene in the forex market. Some of the reasons include stabilizing the exchange rate, supporting trade objectives, controlling inflation, and preventing speculative attack on domestic currency. So, as one of the purposes that we have seen is to stabilize the exchange rate, we see that central banks aim to prevent excessive volatility and abrupt currency movements that can cause harm to their economies by employing central bank intervention mechanisms. Some of those mechanisms or methods, we will see them as we continue with the video. Another reason why central banks intervene in foreign exchange market is supporting trade objectives. We see that central banks intervene in foreign exchange to ensure that their domestic currency remains at a level that promotes export and maintains a favorable trade balance. At the same time, we have mentioned that central banks engage in or make such interventions so as to control inflation. When central banks intervene, they directly influence the exchange rate of the domestic currency. By influencing the exchange rate, the central banks can affect the prices of important goods and services, which in turn helps in controlling or checking against inflation or high inflation. Finally, or the final purpose why central banks engage in such interventions is to prevent speculative attack on domestic currency. That is, they usually engage in such interventions to counter or to fight speculative activities that might destabilize their economy. Let's see how central bank intervention works like. Central banks usually have a choice of different types of intervention that they can employ that can be either direct or indirect. Some of those interventions include, or some of those types include, operational intervention, consultant intervention, sterilized intervention, and jawboning. Operational intervention. When market participants talk about central bank intervention, they are usually referring to operational intervention. This usually involves the central bank buying and selling both foreign and local currency to drive the exchange rate to the targeted level. Usually, it is the pure size of these transactions that make the market movements that are usually seen in foreign exchange during such times. So another type of intervention is jawboning. This is an example of indirect forex intervention whereby a central bank mentions that it may intervene in the market if the local currency reaches a certain undesirable level. This method, as the name suggests, is more about talking than actual intervention. With the central bank ready to intervene, traders take it upon themselves to collectively bring the currency back to more acceptable levels. The other type is consultant intervention. The consultant intervention is a combination of jawboning and operational intervention. It is more effective when multiple central banks voice the same concerns over exchange rates. If a number of central banks increase their jawboning efforts, it is likely that one of them actually conducts operational intervention to drive the exchange rate in the desired direction. The final type is the sterilized intervention. This one usually involves two actions from central banks in order to influence the exchange rate and at the same time leave the monetary base unchanged. It involves two steps: the sale or purchase of foreign currency and an open market operation, that is, selling or buying government securities of the same size as the first transaction. So, what is the impact of central bank intervention on the larger forex market? We see that there are usually short-term exchange rate movements. It is denoted that direct intervention can cause immediate and sometimes substantial movement in exchange rates. This is because traders usually react to central bank actions or interventions, but it is also worth noting that these effects are often short-lived. So impact on market sentiment, we usually see that central bank intervention affects market sentiment, creating uncertainty and making traders nervous about their positions, which is reflected by the heightened volatility that the market exhibits when the central bank makes such interventions. So in the long run, or the long-term trends, while interventions can influence short-term fluctuations, long-term trends are primarily determined by underlying economic fundamentals and market forces. Usually, central banks often find it difficult or challenging to reverse the long-term trends. The final impact, or another impact, is moral hazard. We see that frequent interventions can lead to moral hazard, where market participants become complacent and take on excessive risks, expecting central banks to bail them out. So what are some of the examples or the cases where central bank interventions have been made? We see that there are numerous central bank interventions that have been made over time, but some of the examples that we can mention include the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020, several central banks worldwide, including the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, and the Bank of Japan, took various measures to stabilize their currencies, and provide liquidity to markets as the pandemic disturbed the financial markets. It is worth noting that these interventions all aimed to calm investor fears and restore market confidence. Other interventions that have been seen include the Bank of Japan intervention on yen in 2011. The Bank of Japan intervened in the forex market to weaken the Japanese yen as its strength was hurting the economy of the country's export-driven economy. The intervention initially caused a drop in the yen's value, but the impact was short-lived. In the recent days, the Bank of Japan has been known to intervene whenever the US dollar-Japanese yen pair reaches or trends close to 150 level, as it is currently. Another case that can be mentioned of a central bank intervention is the Swiss franc intervention by the Swiss National Bank. You see that the Swiss National Bank shocked the forex market by discontinuing the Swiss francs pegged to the euro in 2015. This led to a rapid and massive appreciation of the Swiss franc. However, the SNB was unable to stop the initial surge, which resulted in significant losses for some of the traders. Finally, it is worth noting that central bank interventions can have significant but temporary impact on the forex market. While they can influence short-term price movements, the long-term direction of exchange rate is primarily determined by economic fundamentals and market sentiment. Market participants like you and I should carefully consider these factors when making forex trading decisions. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe. As usual, we will see you in the next video. Thank you.